Hello and welcome to the Daily Fantasy 5 for this Saturday, July 13th. It's episode 143. I'm your host, Scott Grierson, and we are bringing you the 5 things you need to know every day, our fantasy football quarterback sleepers. So we got a jam-packed show today, and we'll get to all that after a word from our sponsor, www.mathradio.com, where you can go get an online math course for as little as $9.99. Help your kids get better grades, score higher on exams, and even get into college. Once again, that is www.mathradio.com. All right, everybody. So we got 3 baseball stories, as I mentioned. Good news out of the Angels camp. Infielder Cortez, he's going to have another shoulder surgery. He's going to be out for the year. Back in 2017, he hit 297 with 24 home runs. This year, he only has 97 at bats. He's batting 124 with no home runs. So I don't think anybody was hanging on to him. But if you had hopes that he was coming back this year, maybe in a dynasty league or something, he is not coming back this season as he undergoes another surgery. Okay, former Mets and Dodgers and a bunch of other people's outfielder Matt Kemp has been released from the AAA affiliate in Syracuse today. He was batting 235 down there with only 1 home run. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Matt Kemp's career might be over as a baseball player. So, again, if you had dreams of Matt Kemp coming back and saving your fantasy season, you should look somewhere else. And then finally, some good news on Corey Kluber. They thought he might be out for the entire season. Well, it appears that he might be back to pitch this year. He broke his arm, if you recall, in 2018. He had he was 20-7 with a 2.89 ERA and 222 strikeouts. Not bad. So he only played in 7 games this year before breaking his arm. He wasn't all that great, but I'm sure he's owned in dynasty leagues. He was probably dropped in a lot of standard leagues. I wouldn't target him now, as he's not going to throw off a mound until later on this month. So he's probably at least a month and a half away, 2 months away from being able to pitch in a game if he does come back this year. But it's just somebody to have on your radar. Maybe, for the fantasy playoffs, might be a guy you want to pick up at the end of the season. Okay, so that's it for the baseball news. Let's talk about some fantasy football quarterbacks who I have in the sleeper column. So I was one of the few people who did not rank Jameis Winston in the top 20. He's only being drafted as the 19th overall quarterback, which means he's basically going undrafted in about 75% of leagues. If you're in a standard 12-team league, he's probably not being drafted. If you're in a 10-team league, I'm pretty sure he's not being drafted. Usually in 12-team leagues, you're going to get about 18 quarterbacks taken. So he's right on the edge of that list. In terms of fantasy points per game, he was 15th last season. So obviously he got benched. He was hurt. So there was a lot going on with Jameis Winston. But there are a lot of good things about him as well. Number one, he's in the last year of a contract. So a contract year, if he was ever going to be focused and determined to do everything right off the field and on the field, it would be this year. I mean, if he doesn't perform this year, who knows what his future is going to be in the NFL. Number two, Fitzgerald has moved on. Ryan Fitzpatrick has moved on. He's now with Miami. So Jameis doesn't really have to look over his shoulder. His backup now is Blaine Gabbert. And, I mean, why in the world would the team be motivated to bring in Blaine Gabbert? So it should be the Jameis Winston show. He should not have any competition for playing time this year. Number three, he's got lots of weapons on this team. Wide receiver, he's got Godwin and Evans. Tight end, he's got Howard. He's got a couple of running backs that are decent. So he should have all the weapons he needs on offense. And number four, the defense should be awful again this year. They were in the bottom third last year. I expect them to be in the bottom third again. They didn't get that much better. I just don't think they are going to be very good. So Winston should be trying to bring them back. He should get you plenty of garbage time points in fantasy this season. Okay, my second sleeper, a little bit farther down the list, is Sam Darnold. So Darnold seems like a good candidate for a second-year breakout season. The offense did add Le'Veon Bell, which should help the running game, but in general, it should help the team be in scoring position far more often. Le'Veon Bell should also catch a lot of balls from Sam Darnold as well, giving him another weapon to throw to because, I mean, the wide receivers aren't that great. You've got Anderson and Crowder. I mean, it's not the best 1-2 punch in the league by any stretch, but they're not awful. So he's got decent weapons. The offensive line seems to be improving a little bit. The defense, although, is also getting a little bit better. I just think if you're going to bet on a second-year quarterback outside of Baker Mayfield taking a big jump, I'm going to bet on Sam Darnold. Okay, my third/fourth sleeper here, I'm taking whoever the Miami quarterback is. So I'm talking Ryan Fitzpatrick or Josh Rosen. Okay, yeah. A lot of people think they both stink. Well, they don't. Okay, Ryan Fitzpatrick was the fourth rated player as far as fantasy points per game last year, right? He had 20.7 fantasy points in the games he started. That's pretty great. I know he had to play a lot in junk time to come back and help that Tampa Bay team try to erase the deficit. Well, what do you think is going to happen in Miami? Miami's going to be playing from behind all the time, and Fitzpatrick or Josh Rosen, I suppose, is going to have to help them try to come back. Right, so you would expect a lot of junk time points from whoever the quarterback is, yeah. And the points in the fourth quarter count just as much as fantasy points in the first quarter. So I don't care when I get my points. I feel more confident in a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick picking up fantasy points than I do in, say Tom Brady, because Brady's got to do his stuff in the beginning of the game because they're going to be running the ball later in the game. Whereas Ryan Fitzpatrick, right, he's going to have to throw everything at the wall to try to get some fantasy points to keep his team in it. And the same kind of thought process goes for Josh Rosen. I just haven't seen it out of Josh Rosen yet. I don't have much doubt that Josh Rosen could be a better quarterback than Fitzpatrick, but I've seen Fitzpatrick put up monster numbers. So if you have a great number one quarterback and you're in a deep league, I wouldn't mind having Fitzpatrick or Josh Rosen as my number two. But the problem is you don't know which one to start. So this is really more of a play for weekly fantasy than it is for a standard season. And then my final fantasy sleeper is another guy that's more for the weekly format on FanDuel than he is for a regular season. That's Andy Dalton. So there's only really one reason I like Andy Dalton. He's great at the beginning of the year when he has all of his guys healthy, right? He's more of a point guard quarterback, right? He's a facilitator. He can get the ball to the guys who can make things happen. Well, at the beginning of the year, everybody's healthy, and Andy Dalton's healthy. So this is when you want to own him. So for about the first, 5 weeks is when I want to have Andy Dalton on my team. Let me just go about it here. In the first 4 games last year, Dalton threw 11 touchdowns. Now, he did have 5 interceptions, but that's not too bad. 11 touchdowns is great for the first 4 games. And his quarterback rating was over 100 in 3 out of those 4 games. So Dalton is very good when he's healthy and the team around him and all his weapons are healthy. Now, he certainly can't carry a team. We saw that, and he wore down and got injured at the end of the year. Right. However, at the beginning of the season, he's healthy and his teammates are healthy. He should be tremendous. Now, are you going to go out and draft a guy to start for the first 4 or 5 games of the season? I doubt it, right? Not in a standard league, unless your other quarterback is somebody like Garoppolo, who you think might need some time to catch up, right? Andy Dalton should be able to take over the reins at the beginning of the season for you and then turn over to a different quarterback later on. But where his value really is in FanDuel weekly fantasy, where you can start Andy Dalton for a super low price. The first 5 games of the season, 3 of the games are the 49ers, the Steelers, and the Cardinals, all terrible defenses. I think if you can start Andy Dalton all 3 of those weeks, he should be a great value on FanDuel. We'll see when it happens. But remember, Andy Dalton at the beginning of the year should be fantastic when he has all of his weapons. Now, once guys on his team start getting injured and maybe he starts to wear down, then I don't want to play him anymore. But at the beginning of the year, give me my sleeper, Andy Dalton. Okay, that's it for today. Tomorrow we will be back on the show to bring you any fantasy news that might have happened overnight in baseball. Maybe there's another crazy trade in the NBA, some suspensions in the NFL. Who knows? And then we're going to do our mock draft Sunday. I'm going to try to do a best ball league so that I can give you, kind of the lay of the land in best ball and explain that a little bit to you tomorrow. So that'll be on the Sunday show. If you are listening to the podcast, we'd love it if you gave us a 5-star rating and a review. If you're watching on YouTube, please pound that subscribe button and tell a friend about it. We'd really appreciate it. And if you have a child in the ages of 7 to 17, we would love it if you went to mathradio.com and picked up an online math course for as little as $9.99. It helps your kid in his or her classroom. It helps them on exams and even helps them get into college. So be the hero of your household and go to mathradio.com. See you tomorrow.